What's up, everybody? It's your parole officer's favorite podcast, a.k.a. the Chad and Cheese Podcast. I'm your co-host, Joel Cheeseman, joined as always, the black to my Jack, Chad Sowash, and we are happy to welcome Heather Bussing of Bussing Law.
Bussing Law. You need to wait, if you do commercials, you need that monster truck. Bussing Law. Sunday.
Bus. It's like Prestige.
Global.
Prestige.
Global. Okay, Heather. So you actually you have already finished your talk, which is why you're so relaxed.
She's barefoot.
And I appreciate that.
Crisscrossed applesauce.
I love
it. Chair right
I love it.
Well, it's because my feet don't touch the floor.
That's nice.
I think the chairs move up and down.
It's
we'll have to look at
my name is Edith Ann, and I'm 5 years old.
So what did you talk about?
Yeah, what did you talk about yesterday?
We talked about pay equity.
Okay, that's big.
We talked about how pay equity can begin to change your DE&I focus.
Okay.
And
how's that work? Okay, because for me, this is more about equity than it is diversity and inclusion, right? So how do we get those others in there as we're working on equity?
Yeah, there's a couple things. One is pay equity involves money.
Yeah.
So if you get that right,
and or lack of money, yes.
Yeah. Well, but money is a proxy for so many things in an organization.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a great point.
You know, a budget is a statement of values, and what you pay people is
keeping score.
Keeping score, exactly. So if you can start to get that right, it's just math, right? So you can route around all of you really need to, do X.
Yeah.
Because you can see it.
But it's just math, but that is math in many cases that actually impacts the margins. So therefore, that's one of the reasons why if you can pay your people lower, and this is how obviously management has thought for many, 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 many years, why not get away with it? If you can pay them lower, then we get more money into our pockets, margin-wise, stock buybacks, all that other fun stuff. So why not do that? So I mean, why has it taken so long? We're not at parity right now, right?
Yeah. Oh, no.
We're in 2023, and we're still seeing huge gaps.
Yep.
Why, if it's just a math problem, why are we still seeing this problem?
Because until now, we had to do multivariate regressions on Excel spreadsheets.
Bless you. What did she say?
Did she say that out loud?
You need to dumb it down for the Chad and
This
Cheese
is a
show.
kid-friendly podcast. You gotta watch your mouth, Heather.
Watch out.
So what you had
to dig into that.
Yeah, what you had to do was do a statistical analysis about who was paid in what pay grades.
Right.
And then figure out if the outliers were correlated to a protected class. Usually gender, but race is also pretty common.
Yeah.
But with technology now, we can do all the protected classes.
Yes.
So we can track that if we have the data, and we don't have data on everything like LGBTQ
because
is
not everybody identifies
optional.
either.
Exactly.
Right.
And I don't blame them.
Yeah.
So the statistical work is much easier.
Right.
And then once you have figured out how to group your comparable jobs, because what we've been doing until now is we look at people's job titles and we look at their pay grade, right?
Okay.
And then we compare their pay. And that's not really comparing whether there's equal work for equal pay.
Okay.
It's whether there's equal pay for equal pay, right? So you end up with a self-licking ice cream cone that doesn't really tell you anything, but it's always good news. Right?
Yeah.
Again with the potty mouth, the self-licking ice cream. Self-licking ice cream.
I think
give us the current state of pay equity. We had when DEI was popular and everyone was talking about it. This was a hot issue. We've seen laws passed recently. We saw Indeed, require pay range,
or they
we've
inserted
seen
it.
companies get around that. Like, give us the current state of the issue of pay transparency.
Okay, well, first I want to talk about Claudia Golden, who won the Nobel Prize this week.
Yes.
For her work on women in the workplace. And basically she said, we stalled out during the pandemic and women lost ground in pay equity.
Uh-huh.
And there are still tremendous gaps between men and women doing the exact same jobs.
But why? Because the math is there, the platforms are there. It just seems like to me, and this is, I think, the missing piece, the will is not there. The will of organizations, and at this point, unless organizations are mandated to do this, it's not going to happen. So what do we do?
Right.
Without the government, what are we going to do? We're going to sit here. We're going to continue to have this conversation.
This is where pay transparency helps, right?
Yes.
Because if everybody has to post legitimate pay ranges, not just wild.
Not 0 to 2 million.
Right, exactly.
But that's just on the incoming, right? What about all the disparity that's happening within the actual workforce itself, right? I know that's a start for people coming in, and the people on the outside can look out to these jobs and say, wait a minute, I'm not getting paid that salary. So there is some of that, but I mean, that's an external. What about the current internal parity that we just can't see?
Technology can help. Because we're getting much better at being able to understand the work.
Yes.
So we're actually, looking at skills, developing skills taxonomies, figuring out what's involved in the work.
Yeah.
It's early days, but we're also getting better job descriptions because there is technology that can help create that so that you don't have to get all the weird things out of recruiting C drives and all the stuff over at workers' comp. And, so once we have a really great understanding of the work, we can get really accurate analysis and assessment of what's going on with pay equity. And then it's cheaper to fix it. Yeah. It's cheaper to fix it than fight about it.
But
it's also evidence.
But if they're getting away with it now, it's not costing them anything right now.
Well, California is requiring companies to report pay to the regulators, and they have the same technology that we do.
Yeah. So you're talking about these platforms. Give us some ideas of some platforms that you would suggest for any company who really cares about pay equity.
Yeah, well, let me make my FTC disclosure here.
Sure.
I do a lot of content work for Salary.com and ADP, and they are both on track and doing amazing work.
Now, what about startups like Syndio? Those are companies that are just specifically narrowly focused on pay equity. What about companies like that?
It depends on how they've approached the how do we compare the work aspect.
Okay.
And I don't know. Part of what I'm here to do today is go around and find out what people are doing.
Great.
So I will check them out. Thank you.
So Chad talks about government and regulations, and there's a piece of that. I think a certain segment would say the market is taking care of a lot of this. In other words, I know that if I have a pay range, the applicants I get are going to be more qualified because they're going to be in that pay range expectation. Obviously, services like pay scale and whatnot sheds a light on what people are getting paid, that people are more informed. What do you say to the market is taking care of some of that argument?
I think that's right. I think we also have to look at sheer demographics because we saw labor shortage after the pandemic. We've seen job growth ever since.
Yeah.
And the reality is that women are waiting longer to have kids. They're having fewer kids. We have immigration policies that make it very hard for people to come in and work. And we've got an aging population that is retiring.
Oh, yeah.
So we have a labor shortage for the foreseeable future. But how that shakes out in individual jobs is always going to.
So your angle on market taking care of it is that boomers are retiring at a 10,000 plus per day clip, eventually there'll be a shortage, pay will equal out, and everything will be hunky-dory. Or closer to what it is
Hopefully.
now.
When has that ever
Hopefully.
happened in
But-
our
but
society
it won't.
with the market? Because the market's never fixed it
Right,
before. So
right.
why do you think the market's going to fix it now?
I'm just asking
I'm
our
just
guest
asking.
here.
I'm asking.
I think it
Historically,
will
the
help.
market won't fix it.
My question was, there is a segment that will say the market will take care of some of that.
No,
You don't
I
need
agree,
the government to come down. I was asking her take on market forces versus.
I was asking you a question as well. It's okay.
Oh man.
I think both are right. I think.
I agree.
I think they have to work together. But the problem I think we've had is we haven't had enough government intervention, which everybody hates to hear, but we in our history have not seen parity. So therefore, we have to do something different, right?
And look, we give Indeed a hard time almost every week, but we are both on the same page in saying requiring companies in their job description to put a pay range, or if you don't, we're going to put one in for you.
So question: do you
good.
think Indeed would have done that without all of the states
No,
making
of course
those?
not.
Okay.
Of course not.
So therefore, government.
Of course not.
That was not a market pressure. That was a governmental
Yeah,
pressure.
no, and both things are correct.
Uh-huh.
But the labor shortage is also going to make movement in DE&I.
Yeah.
Because we're going to have to hire everyone,
Exactly.
and we're going to have to learn to work together.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be optional anymore.
Yeah.
That's a demographic issue from your
Yes.
standpoint. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
What-
and then things get real.
Yeah.
Because it's not about convincing people about things that they don't think matter. It's about, look, do you want to be in business or not?
We're maybe getting in the weeds. You work with a lot of companies. They come to you for questions, and you have answers. What are they asking you? Is it basic stuff? Is it really detailed? What are your customers and clients asking about on this issue?
Well, I still get questions.
How do I not get sued? Is that
or do I have
how
to?
do I not have to hire Busing Law?
Well, my clients don't hire me to do litigation because I quit doing litigation. I fulfilled my lifetime quota of fighting with people.
So
a
you're
few
more
years
preventative
ago.
maintenance.
I am preventative maintenance.
I like that.
And getting in there before there's trouble.
Yes.
And, wage hour stuff is always big, and I tell people you outsource your payroll to a reputable company that's going to be here 10 years from now that understands the laws of all 50 states.
Yeah.
COVID is still a big issue for employers and employment lawyers because the rules keep changing, and sick leave, states are changing new laws in response to all of the ones that expired.
Yeah.
And so everyone's trying to sort that out, including me.
I'm surprised. There's unions are having a moment.
Yes.
Talk about that, because I think that is ingrained a lot in this equity issue and getting paid what I'm worth and inflation and COVID. Like, give us your take on the rise of the unions. And we're here in Vegas where there's a threat
great
of
point.
the service industry.
Yeah,
that's a great
striking.
point.
Yeah. Well, it's the power dynamics, right?
Right.
Because the employers hold the purse, and the only way that and at will employment, right?
Right.
we don't like your classes, you're fired. And so the only way that employees can have leverage in the conversation is to join together.
Yeah.
And we have a framework for that in place under the National Labor Relations Act.
So you're not surprised to see this rise in
I am
unions
not
whatsoever.
surprised. I am not surprised.
Are you surprised that it took so long? Because the unions were busted up back in the 80s, and then they just started to atrophy, and then the pitchforks are now starting to come out. This is what Joel and I have been talking about for years. The pitchforks are going to come out, and now they're coming out in the form of the union. Are you surprised that it took so long?
Yes, but I'll tell you what happened. COVID.
As an accelerator for many things.
When you decide that you are not willing to die for your employer, turns out there's a lot of other stuff you don't want to do either.
That's
right?
a great perspective.
And we learned that things can change on a dime.
Yes.
And that all the things that people were asking for suddenly became possible.
Yes.
Gosh.
Yes.
And so we don't believe that you can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, that's what employees are thinking.
Heather, we're at a show, maybe the biggest show of the year in terms of technology and TA and HR. Any takeaways so far from the show or things that you're anxious to see? Any vendors that you're interested in talking to?
I'm excited to just see what's going on and what people are working on. You know, generative AI is hot, but we'll see how that goes out. I am very skeptical.
Yes.
But I'm interested in that, and I'm interested in figuring out how people are understanding the work.
Everyone of a certain age, and I'm looking at everyone at the table, is a little skeptical about all of this stuff. Heather, thanks for joining us. For our listeners who want to know more about you or connect, where would you send them?
Connect with me on LinkedIn, Heather Bussing.
Easy.
Too easy. I love it.
Another one in the can, Chad. We out.